hello to everyone again. So welcome to the Integration of Refugees Through Sport virtual networking webinar. Today's topic is include everyone, and with you, we would like to share examples from different organizations and projects that are involving different target groups within the refugee and migrant target group. Today we will have two examples. One is working with refugee women and the other one with children. Next. So my name is Monica. I'm coming from Slovenia originally, but living and working in Denmark. And I'm part of the ISCA team working quite a lot with the integration of refugees through sport project in the last few years, and also working on developing online courses. And I will be your host for today. Okay, next one. So before we jump into the webinar, I'm gonna make a little promotion because it's something that ISCA team, also together with some of you, is working on in the next. So in November, we will be actually meeting offline, finally, hopefully it will go as we plan it. So I'd like to invite all of you to the MOVE Congress that's gonna happen between 17th and 19th of November in Brussels, in Belgium. And we expect around 200, 250 participants. And we will finally meet in person and have opportunity to network and exchange our knowledge. Also, the IRTS topic, so integration of refugees through sport, will be quite covered at the MOVE Congress, and we will have workshops that will be led by refugees themselves. You can find more information about it on movecongress.com, and just for your info, the early bird tickets are available until end of September. Okay. Now we're going to go for the first presentation. So I'd like to invite Wachter and very German, and Kayra Hohmann to present their SPIN project. Yes. So Lina, you can change the presentation now.
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon from sunny Vienna. Thanks for Monica. Thanks for the to the whole ISCA team for putting this event together. Yes, I was asked, or Kayra and myself were asked to feedback about the experiences we had with our latest project called Spin Women. So maybe just as a to give you a context. So yes, I'm working for VIDC. VIDC is the Vienna Institute for International Dialogue and Cooperation, and we run the Fair Play Initiative, and we are also now since almost 10 years now working on an international level with on the SPIN network. So and yes, I think the basic idea was that we know that in sports, migrants and ethnic minorities across the EU are face barriers when it comes to participating in sport and physical activities. And we can also witness or see the underrepresentation of migrants and the exclusions from positions of authorities and the lack of advancement of minorities in non-playing positions. I think this is very, common to you, to us as NGO activists when we work with governing bodies, with clubs, that the people we pretend to work with and for are not always on the same table. And then we with this SPIN project, it was initially a project, but turned into something more stable. So we have partners from different countries, like I see Daniela Conti from UISP. We have Likuka Finland. I saw Aisat from Mona Liku. We have Camino. Kayra is from Camino in Germany. We have the Mahatma Gandhi Human Rights Organization from Hungary. We have the FAI from Ireland and the Portuguese Players Union. And since 2011, we started quite a lot of initiatives, but then one was, for example, also Sport Welcomes Refugees, Erasmus Plus project in 2018. But then we come to a point where we said we need to focus on, I think, do you have this term of refugees or migrants, ethnic minorities, and sometimes is too homogeneous. I think there's a lot of diversity in the diversity. So and I think there was an internal debate in the partnership of SPIN that we always pretend, women and girls are high on our agenda. They are our target group, blah blah blah. But when we looked at our reports, I think there was always a bit of so women and girls not really feature. So we really said we want a project entirely devoted to women and girls, and this is this SPIN Women. Yes, here you can see in the slide some of our products. I think I can also share later on a link to our website, sportinclusion.net, where you have all the outputs, and we were very busy and very ambitious to and you can see that a lot of issues and a lot of questions came up in the project. I think if you go to the again, I mean, we know that women and girls from ethnic minority background, they are usually invisible in the public sphere and also in sport. And of course, there are differences. It's not every person or woman or girl with a minority background who is absent in sport, but you have differences also depending on the country where you live, and then also on the area you stem from. So and of course there are studies that show that there's that it's not about the interest of women and girls to join sport, but it's rather on the barriers they face. And I think one important point was then to look at to have a baseline. So that was the research part, but that's again more for Kayra later on. I think we had a focus on training and bringing sports stakeholders together. We had a training in Berlin with an amazing group of women and girls who are active in their organizations, and I think this networking idea is very important. We had we prepared a toolkit. We had also on a national level stakeholder meetings. We had a mentoring and guideline how to mentor minority women and in sport. And okay, again on the, maybe that's something for clarification. So we thought about making this project only for refugees, but then we thought that this is maybe too narrow. But if you look at our products, it's probably maybe half of the women we worked with, we portrayed, we were of a refugee background. So probably that's for clarification. And yes, what else? We had also some public debates, for example, a webinar on female football hosted by our Portuguese, maybe you can put the next slide, put together by our Portuguese colleagues, the Players Union of Portugal, and we had a debate, about female football, and if it's a white girl sport. We had amazing participants like Kayra Hohmann, you probably all know, and we had also Cynthia Uvak, 2 times African Footballer of the Year. Probably some of you know the story. She's currently in Finland, but she was stopped. She had to leave basically Nigeria, her home country, because she was she wanted to live the life she feels comfortable with, and so she was kind of kicked out of the national team because she's a LGBT athlete, and that's also featuring in a magazine we produced. There's the story about Cynthia. There's the story about Kayra. So great women who were involved in the project. And yes, maybe to slightly come to an end, we have also a networking conference in end of May, beginning of June, based a hybrid one, and we launched also an exhibition. That's the slide before. Yes, an exhibition on, it's called Invisible: Her Stories of Minority and Migrant Women in Sport. We had a lot of, not a lot, 20 panels giving the biographies, the stories of role models in sport, like Helia. She's somebody we work with here in Vienna. She's part of the Kick Ohne Grenzen. That's a project for refugees in sport, and she came as a Afghan refugee to Austria, and then developed her sporting career here in Austria. And of course she liked football before, and so some of these very amazing stories are collected in that exhibition, which is also online. Okay, and yes, we had, maybe that's my end of the presentation, is a series of videos produced by UISP. They were based on the research conducted by Camino, which Kayra will talk about later. And I think we will see the short video about Latifa. She's a fictional character, but which reflects on one aspect of these challenges and barriers refugee girls and women face in sport. Yes, and here you can see some of the how to get in touch with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Should we see the video now, or should we?
Yes.
Yes. Let's do the video. Yeah.
I am Latifa. I arrived here 3 years ago and had never played sports. Where I come from, it is thought that the woman's body becomes unattractive and then it is difficult, for example, to find a husband. That's why it took me so long to get close to a sports center. I didn't like the idea of deforming my body. I wanted to stay soft. But I saw other girls who played sports and seemed to have fun. I entered the sports center where a girl I know goes, and I spoke to an operator. At the beginning, I was a little ashamed to talk about my problem. I felt like a frivolous thing, but she made me feel at ease, and so I opened up. She explained to me that there is not only one way to play sports, and that we, together with the coach, have to decide how much we want to push based on the results we want to achieve. I have been doing gymnastics for a year now, together with a group of women. I made new friends, I feel good, and my body is more toned. But it hasn't changed as I was afraid it would.
Yeah, okay. There are more 6 more videos on different barriers and issues. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Yeah, maybe you can add those videos in the chat, or if there's like a channel or something. I think it could be interesting way to also promote, because it's a cartoon in a way. So yes. Yes, and now we go to Kayra.
Yes, hello everyone, I'm Kayra. I did an action research on behalf of the SPIN project, and I'm also working at Camino. So part of the SPIN project was to conduct action researches in 3 different countries, and I did mine in Germany, so I will be presenting the results of that. But just a quick introduction about what action research is for those of you who are not familiar with it. It is a participative and participatory approach to qualitative inquiries that includes both the researcher and the so-called researched, and redefines them as co-workers, and thus also repositions research in itself as a mutual endeavor between the person who is the researcher and a group or entity that the researcher in most of the cases is actually familiar with, or a community that the researcher is a part of. So it is based on a radical down-to-up approach, and is that concerned with flattening hierarchies, questions of accessibility, and somewhat also authenticity. And the focus of my research that I conducted in Germany last year is on non-mainstream football clubs. And when I talk about non-mainstream football organizations or clubs, I'm referring to migrant organizations, so cultural or ethnic organizations, such, let's say, the Turkish or Albanian community, who organize their own football organizations. But I'm also referring to football clubs that are promoted by NGOs, that are based or that are targeting refugees, that are targeting trans women, or a queer athlete group. So these kind of clubs that are outside the mainstream spectrum. And the women that I talked to, I did the research with, was actually a diverse pool of women. My focus was on young girls with migratory backgrounds, such as I have myself, but there were also some newcomers and refugees to Germany. And what I wanted to know was in line with the main goals of our SPIN project, to find out what kind of obstacles young women and girls are facing in mainstream sports, and what are their reasons for choosing those alternative outlets. So some of the girls that I talked to had always played in such an alternative organization. Others had played in the semi-professional or professional league of mainstream football, and then changed to the current organization that they were in. And the methods that I was using, just very quickly, of course, participative observation. I joined some of the tournaments. I got to know the athletes. I went to dinner with them, all these kind of bonding activities. And then on top of that, I did a set of narrative interviews. If you have any questions about that, I think maybe we can talk about it in the Q&A session. I'll keep it short now. And the main findings of the action research I conducted was, first, that there is a quite huge potential in non-mainstream football, that there is also the need for more funding, for more resources to put these kind of clubs on our radar. It's a rather basic one. The second one is that migrant associations in particular were appealing to both women with migratory backgrounds as well as refugees, because clubs are actively trying to create safe spaces for the women. And that was very important. And that was made up to two aspects. The one aspect, or the one side of it, was that the athletes often shared similar life realities. They were in similar situations in life, so they actually understood each other, which was very important on side of the team members. But on the other hand, it was also very crucial for the women that the club was actively trying to create a safe space for them. So it was a two-sided matter. And the third main finding that, of course, is related to that was that the women that I talked to said that alternative football organizations often show a more pronounced awareness. And this awareness can be political or social, so that they have precise rules and regulations towards incidents of racism or discrimination policies. And this can range from gender awareness to anti-racism. And many of the athletes I talked to appreciated that, because they said the club that I'm playing at, this alternative outlet, is understanding my needs and wishes, but they also have clear practical guidelines that include anti-discrimination policies into the club's agenda. And I think many of the reasons they told me why they have left or not chosen a mainstream football club says something about the barriers that they are experiencing. So one of them was that the girls' voice, not all of them, of course, that they felt the pressure to justify themselves in mainstream football, that they were somewhat framed into the migrant other as such. So they were asked to take a stand towards, let's say, a political uprising or something that was happening in the country where they were living before, or they were asked with socio-political questions such as, let's say, quote unquote, whether women with hijab could be feminist. So this framing of being the migrant other was something that they didn't want to experience in sports, whether they did sports as leisure or for professional reasons. They just felt out of place. And another issue that's somewhat related to that is that they said when you don't feel that you fit into the team, mainstream clubs often, not always, do not have enough bonding activities beyond the pitch. So for those who didn't identify with the team, football remained a practice, but not a joint experience with others. And that was especially a problem or seen as a difficulty or barrier for newcomers, refugees, and recent migrants who didn't find any support or networking opportunities in mainstream club. And they also said in regards to that they felt it's quite an issue that the mainstream clubs they were playing at before do not have any support or solutions for issues that aren't related to sports. So finding housing, finding a language school, all of these kind of things is fundamentally different in alternative clubs. Where there is already a network of support where women can go to and ask about housing, just make some friends. So this issue of being there and being a networking opportunity or base was very, very important to most of them. And I think we can describe that in some ways that the mainstream clubs, a huge barrier in mainstream clubs is that the club structure, as well as the coaches or the teammates, do not show enough understanding of the respective life situation the women are in. That can be very practical, pressing things, such as language barriers, but it can also be more identity-based issues as the ones that I was raising before. And this lack, I think we can sum it maybe up with a lack of awareness that was very central for many and was a crucial reason to change into an alternative outlet. And another issue that girls said was, again, on the practical side, they said there is no suitable options for women such as refugees who don't have enough time maybe to go to the club and join the practice 3 or 4 times a week, especially when they're in the semi or professional level, because they have other responsibilities such as going to the language school or an integration course whatsoever. And they often got penalized in their clubs before for not showing up, and they had to sit on the bench because their coach didn't understand that they practically couldn't come. So this also is an issue for women who are a little bit older, let's say at the end of their 20s, or women who are neither beginners nor advanced, so mid-levels, that mainstream clubs don't provide suitable teams for them. So they somehow end up, it's not that depressing, but they end up in these alternative outlets that play with very, very big teams, 15 to 20 people, and they're open to everyone. No matter whether you're mid-level or you just don't have the time to commit 3 times a week. And of course, that also comes with issues for those girls who want to pursue a more professional football career, because there is no way to climb up in a ladder when the clubs are underfunded or undersupported. And summing up, to look at solutions and strategies, I think we can say in the most basic way that alternative football organizations are a strategy in themselves. So they need more funding and more resources to be these kind of networks, to be there for women and create safe spaces. But when we look at the mainstream clubs and organizations, besides the basic things we know about language, active encouragement and fostering collectivity, the girls that I talked to pointed out that precise anti-discrimination and racism regulations and anti-racism regulations and a pronounced political and social awareness would be crucial for them to change back or initially choose a mainstream club. So yeah, that is the first impression of my action research. I hope we can talk about it later in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kayra. So we have time for a question or two, but otherwise, if you will have more questions later on, we're gonna be divided into 2 groups. So if you want to know more about the research or the SPIN project, you can join the group with Kayra and Quad. So do we have any questions right now? I'm trying to see everyone. Okay, Laura, do you wanna unmute yourself? And
yeah, sure, I can do that. I was wondering if the directors or founders of these alternative clubs, if they mostly had a migrant background themselves, the persons who were running the clubs. I think that would be fascinating to hear. Kayra, thank you.
Thanks for your question. Some of them, yes, others don't. In, for example, clubs that were based on ethnic group identities, Turkish or Albanian communities, let's say, yes, most of them had were migrants or had a migratory background. Those clubs that promoted queer or trans teams, it was often young women who volunteered from NGOs and whatever and build up the team by themselves.
thank you. Any more questions? I don't see any raised hands or anything. Yes, so next presentation will be from Cristina Vladescu. I mistyped, sorry, from Terre, the home organization from Romania. Sorry, Cristina. The floor is yours.
Unmute, okay. And I will try from my computer, right? With the presentation yet?
Yes, sure. If it doesn't work, let us know and we'll,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see? Just a second, sorry.
Not yet.
Now?
Yes, we can see now, yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, if you can put full screen, it's gonna be even on the whole thing. So.
Mm. But why is not? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if F5 usually works. If you click F5.
It's
Or
not
you
working. Mm.
Okay, but I think we can also follow it like this. So
Yeah,
I think it's
okay.
fine. Yes, thank you.
I can see forward, 3 slides, so that will help me. Okay, so I'm Cristina, I'm from Terre, Romania, and my pleasure to present you in the next minutes movement, games and sport methodology that Terre developed. And I'm very happy that I'm here together with Alina Dumitru, the training coordinator of Terre, and I hope she will add and complete what I will present. I'm happy that she managed to enter now. So me, I finished psychology, and I work for several years as a school psychologist, and in the last 11 years, I work in my beautiful Terre organization, which is the leading Swiss organization for children's aid, and is active in many, many countries of the world, and in Romania since 1991. We had different projects to provide assistance to over 1 million of children. And we have different expertise on juvenile justice, on migration, on children's help in any possible space. Terre and sports was for many years connected. It is one of the an important NGO that promotes the benefits of sport in bringing physical health and in contributing to positive social outcomes among vulnerable, displaced, and refugee populations. That means in other countries and in Romania as well. Most of my presentation will focus on Romania and on what we are doing, including this MGS methodology. So MGS methodology, that's the vision, movement, games, and sport. This is how I started to work in Terre 11 years ago. This methodology was developed in 2005 and piloted in Iran, Colombia, and Sri Lanka because there were areas where there were natural disasters and there were places affected by war. And it was a pilot that had been successful. And after 2005, in 2008, a project named Movement, Games and Sport and MOVE, funded by UEFA, started to be implemented in Romania and Albania, Moldova, and Kosovo. And since 2008 up to now, 2021, I mean, this methodology was always alive in many projects with different areas, not only sport necessarily, I mean, sport, but connected with, for instance, in juvenile justice or in other projects, in other topics as well, but always was important because it's very, very, it's full of, it brings joy, it brings connection, and brings the opportunity for people to get friends. I mean, it's important to be friends with each other and to feel connected, and especially working with the refugees. This first photo was one of my favorite events in 2011 when this move funded by UEFA ended, and we brought together 100 of youth. I think there were Roma, but there are other minorities. There were youth from different cities of Romania, and as well refugees and asylum seekers. It was the first time when we worked together, bringing together youth, because movement, games, and sport is about games that plead for cooperation and for inclusion of all children through by developing the abilities of the animators, of the professionals to work with them, but ultimately what we aim is to help youth be happier, have more resilience, trust more, and be able to connect in whatever situation they live. Okay. Because every good friend was at first a stranger, that we always mention at the beginning of our trainings. Since 2008 up to now, we had, I don't know, hundreds of trainings to where we plead for MGS, for teachers or psychologists or social workers, for professor of sport, of course, because this methodology involves sport, but mainly is about open your heart and be able to communicate in other way with youth, use your mind, body and soul to work, to create a friendly, a safe space for sport and for children. So move my games and sport. We always say that this is a tool because we use games. We have a manual of traditional games for child protection. We are an NGO that pleads for protection, and we transform traditional competitive games into cooperative ones that involves the child in a global way, physical, cognitive, and emotional level. And these games are flexible and they can be adapted to different contexts. That's why I tell you this methodology, it's very, it's special. And we have two manuals that I will show to you that can be useful for you as well, I hope. There are traditional games from Romania, from Albania, and from Moldova. And for working with refugees, because this is a topic of our discussion, I think it's very good to develop games that are based on the tradition of the refugee communities, because that empowers and they will feel, they are recognized. And it's easy because every nation has games. I mean, game and stories are something that are needed to all children. Then MGS is a method based on experience. I mean, we combine practice with theory, but there is a lot of practice. We learn by practice and then reflect on our experiences and try to learn, and based on feedback to evolve. And it's a strategy because that strategy helps, for instance, Romania always keep the methodology among the projects. I mean, it has a transfer, I mean, it includes training of trainers, includes then the part of coaching, that means to follow up the training and means connection with the trainees. And in time, this improves the competencies. And then the animators and the trainees train as well other people and do the activities with youth wherever they work with. The 3H, we say head, heart, and hand. All our games have this part. I mean, this makes like a psychosocial game to develop the cognitive abilities of your young people, the emotional one based on trust and empathy and communication. Usually after games, youth evaluate the activity and discuss about it and share their feelings. And that helps to integrate the experience and not to be only a game, but during the game to create a space of development and of reflections. And of course, the physical part, because they are sport games, that they are transformed to be psychosocial. That means to see the child in his environment, not only the child, but as well his friends, his family, his integration in the community. That makes him psychosocial, psycho and social because of the community where we have to integrate youth. So these are the main principles of the MGS. I won't stay too much on them, but the essential is this cooperation and integration versus competition and exclusion. I mean, as long as the activity has these qualities, then for us, it develops this integration in the community and has the purpose. And only just to tell you more, if you want to see more about our modules, they are, I mean, the manuals are on the DH library. They are in English and in French and Romanian, maybe in other language, in Arab language as well. This training, this is, you know, the structure of a training includes, that's why it is precious. That was for me, you know. Also, I am a psychologist, but I believe that any professional working with children, yeah, even if he learns a methodology based on a very good theory, he has to include as well this part of self-development. So we have on one side, the personal skills during the trainings that we speak about resilience and how to manage emotions and how to communicate, the social and personal skills, and then there are these methodological and technical. Any training combines all of these competencies. And at the core of the methodology, that's why it's important for refugee communities and for children and for is that we plead and we want to increase the resilience of the young people. And that means their ability to overcome obstacles and to overcome loneliness and to overcome this feeling of not being important and be lost in a country that doesn't know your language and you don't know their language. So resilience usually is included in the activities with youth, in groups or individually, and it's always a module for the adults, how to increase the resilience and to try to make children be confident in themselves and in their power to overcome difficulties. So that was the history of MGS very shortly as a legend, you know, but I wanted to present you as well the core. Up to 2018, when we started a project named Move Together, so again, Move Together, that was a pilot project that used sport as a tool for integration and social inclusion of refugees. Also, the zone had many projects with refugees in other countries. I mean, in Romania, that was the one that was a pilot. It was conducted by a colleague of mine, Rodica, that couldn't enter now. She's an expert on migration, and I was in her team together with Alina, my colleague, that maybe she will complete, and we were on the part of trainers. I mean, as trainers, but she led it, and it was not an easy project, but it was so beautiful, amazingly beautiful. I mean, it was one of the best projects that I had the honor to be part of. So the project was funded by Erasmus, and the objectives were to strengthen the intercultural dialogue between refugees and host communities, and a pilot to create a mixed group of women trainers able to provide psychosocial support through movement, games, and sports to refugee children and youth. So we had 32 women, half refugees, especially from Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Syria. I think this is how I remember. And half of the women were from the Romanian community. And we had this training on MGS. Usually the training lasts 6 days, but this time it was 10 days, split on two sessions, 5 days and 5 days. And the women stay together, they come every day for the training. What was very nice, and I will show you only some photos, was that the refugee women came with their children. And that was the moment when the project again was very live, you know, because they had different kids on different ages. And the trainers had to combine, you know, in order for them to attend, we had to have another space where youths were playing. And then in another room, women and mothers were sharing experiences, learning about how to animate, but as well sharing, their personal life and connecting with each other. And always was that was very special for me, because usually you have a training only with the adults, or you have activity with children, but not always all together with kids from 18 months to 70 years old, you know. But it was, it was a lot of heart, and it was the vision actually that it's for all, you know. And it went well. it went well afterward, but bringing more human resources in the project. We were always 4 adults. I mean, Alina, Rodica, me, and Madalina, another friend and trainer. I will show you soon some photos that won't be recorded, because even if we have GDPR, I think it's, I mean, we don't know if it's okay or not. So I only present to you the photos, and I will ask you, yeah, I will show you now. So I would like to, to come back to MGS. I mean, I would like to show you a movie that explains all the methodology, and then we are very open to questions. I'm not sure if I'm...
Yeah, we're slowly running out of time, so... But
yeah.
How long is the movie?
Maybe you
the
put
movie
the
is
link.
5 minutes.
Sorry?
Christina, maybe you put the link in the chat.
Okay, I can put a link in the chat.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay,
let's do that.
I think it's a very good movie. Also, it's old, but it has all the core elements that would help you realize what means MGS in practice. I will advise you to see it. I will send you the link.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. I think
here
you can
is the
put it in
link.
chat.
So this is the link, and here is the manual. Working with children and their environment, manual of psychosocial.
I sent the link. I sent the links, Daniel.
And here there are another 2 manuals of traditional games, and the laugh and run and move to develop together. This includes as well some of our core games that we used to include in all our events. It's very practical. I mean, that's one thing that maybe could be useful for you as well. This MGS is based on games and creative activities that are flexible and adaptable to different contexts, and support youth, increase their resilience, and be more connected and get new friends. I think that would maybe very shortly. I always, when I start to
yes, so Cristina, I think you can put the links in the chat. And thank you very much for the presentation. We will go into the breakout rooms now. There's also possibility to maybe show those movies in the breakout room. So the idea is that you choose the breakout room where you want to go. So I would ask, just a second. Yes. So the breakout room number 1 will be a spin project with Kurt and Kayra, and then the breakout room number 2, Terre, hommes with Cristina, and I'm guessing also Alina. So you have to choose the breakout room. If you don't choose it, I'm gonna put you there. I'll stay in the main room if someone has questions about IRTS or anything. But thank you very much to the presenters. I think we will have, what time is it? Just a second. Yeah, I think we'll have a 20 minutes in the breakout rooms, and then we will come back to the main room. Hello and welcome back. We have some people left somewhere in between the breakout room and main room. I don't know what that space is, but it might exist. Okay, I think we have everyone here, or most of us at least. Yes, so I would actually like to ask from group number 1. I think there was Lina. Was it Lina in the group number 1? If you could share maybe some highlights from the discussion. Obviously, others are also welcome to share if there was something that you want to share with the bigger group.
Yeah, I think there were many topics that came up, starting from the classic terminology, like when it's refugee and when it's gonna be migrant, and how we approach them and how open we are. And other bigger topic that came, and we were running out of time, as time is always very limited, was the language. So how open are the clubs, for example, in language-wise as well? If the club is in Germany, is the main language German, or are there different groups for different ethnical backgrounds, so to speak? I think those were the bigger topics that came up, but maybe the people from the team, Kurt and Kayra, would like to chip in? Maybe I missed something that was important and came up.
I could just add that we were talking about how to make regular clubs more accessible for everyone, not only on paper, but also in practice. But of course, we didn't find the golden solution yet.
I hope we will in the future. each in our own club. Thank you very much. Is there something else?
Kurt, maybe wants to add.
I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I think most of it was said. Yes, the time was a bit short. I think there was the question of really on the practical side, how can you make sport clubs accessible to refugees, and yes, I think the colleague from Denmark said that sometimes you have a problem of getting a mix in groups. Either you have only migrants or you have only refugees, and how you can overcome this. Yes, and then I think there was a question on the network, on SPIN, how you can join, and I just said that this is just in the making, that we establish ourselves as a formal network, and you will hear very soon how to join. Yes.
Yes, maybe I'll add two keywords that were also that sometimes there's like a mediator needed that would give the information actually what clubs are open to refugees or migrants, and to get the information, and others to educate the trainers so they would be more mindful as well when the backgrounds are different.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Group number 2. I heard Jakob was very good in asking questions. So Jakob, do you want to maybe share? And obviously also Cristina and the rest of the team. If there's anything you want to share with the bigger group?
Well, I think first of all, one of the discussion points was about how to use and adapt the methodology that they have developed to different contexts. And we heard some super examples, from adaptation to adolescents in prisons, to adaptation to different countries and their cultural contexts, as well as, of course, adaptation to refugees in their specific situations. So that was one conversation. We also discussed a little bit about some barriers, legal and practical barriers. And so in Romania, for instance, refugees per se and their children would technically have all the same rights as any other children in Romania, but they don't know and they cannot learn about those rights. So while on paper things are fine, in practice it's much difficult. So that was also a conversation. And there was also some good questions about the media and the awareness and attention to these kinds of activities, which is something that really does take a specific effort and is difficult to build up over time. So these were some of the things that I picked up, and it was a very interesting conversation. And we did get the link to the video as well, which I look forward to seeing. Thank you.
Thank you. Cristina, anything you want to share? Maybe the link to the video also.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, Jakob summarized perfect. Yeah, let's try again. Please let it.
Yeah, you can
my laptop, it's not working very well, but it's true that I'm not... Okay.
Otherwise, we can always... Yeah, we can also send it after.
You know how it is with the Murphy law, no?
Yeah, when things need to work, they don't.
You know, you feel that you have to do. This is unbelievable. This is... And I invite you to see it there. It's done in 2009. 2011. But anyway, a lot of years, but still, this is the vision. I tell you, it's about inclusion. No, I think Jakob completed.
Did you put?
Yes,
you didn't put the video in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, but you don't see it. Yeah, everyone.
No, to everyone. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, this
is there now.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so thank you. I think we're done here for today. Thank you very much to the speakers for sharing their projects and passion and things that you do. Thank you for all to all the participants for being here, for listening and also sharing and asking questions. So the next webinar will be, I'm kind of getting used to this. So like it should be the final one, but I'm not sure if it's going to be the final one. So I'm really getting used to having these webinars every second month. So the next one will be in November, on 10th of November, just before the MOVE Congress. And the topic is work together for bigger impact. We'll be inviting some organizations to share their experiences on partnerships and how can we work together with different organizations and stakeholders. Yes, and obviously I also invite you for the MOVE Congress. More info can be found on movecongress.com, and hopefully I'll see some of you in Brussels and can finally see you after almost 2 years, I guess. Yes, so thank you very much, and yeah, that's all for today, and keep on going, keep the motivation.